Hi, I'm Sophie Snow. Welcome to my cooking show. Today we are making donuts, but not just any donuts. These are chocolate yuzu glazed donuts. What's yuzu? Stick around to find out. So the first thing we are doing is we need to make the flax egg. A flax egg is an egg alternative. It's a vegan version of a chicken egg. So you use 1 tablespoon of flaxseed meal and 3 tablespoons of water. Just add that and then you're going to stir it up and just let this sit for about 10 minutes for it to kind of gel up into like an egg-like consistency. Next, we're going to preheat the oven to 375 degrees Fahrenheit and oil our donut pan. I like to use a towel underneath before I spray it with cooking spray because the spray gets everywhere, so I don't want a greasy tabletop. You can also use vegan butter if you'd like. I think this is pretty convenient. Boom, and we're done. So now we're going to mix up our wet ingredients. Our first ingredient is Mori-Nu Yuzu flavored Silken tofu. Yuzu is a citrus fruit that is used in Japanese cuisine often. So we want 3/4 cup of that, 1/4 cup of olive oil, three tablespoons of maple syrup. This gives the donuts moisture and of course sweetness and flavor. 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. This smells delicious already. And don't forget your flax egg. So you can see it's already kind of like a gel, kind of like, you know, what a raw egg might be like. And this is completely vegan and it's good for you too, flax seeds. So now we're going to blend it up. I think it's pretty well blended, but I'm just going to check, make sure that there's nothing stuck on the sides that we miss, and it's looking pretty good. Now we're going to mix up the dry ingredients here. So this is 3/4 cup baking flour. We're using Bob's Red Mill gluten-free 1-to-1 baking flour here, but you can use regular non-gluten-free flour if you'd like. Next is 1/2 cup of almond flour. So almond flour is just almonds that's ground up. Next is 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder, and you want to use unsweetened cocoa powder because we already are sweetening the wet ingredients with the maple syrup. Then 1 1/4 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. And finally, a pinch of salt. Don't forget your salt for sweets because it does add a little bit of saltiness just to kind of make the flavor come out more, but you won't even taste the saltiness. Next, we're going to sift this. All right, get that well mixed. I think we're good with the mixing. So now we are ready to mix the wet into the dry. In this case, it doesn't really matter so much whether you mix dry into wet, but obviously we have the bowl here, so we're gonna pour the wet into the dry ingredients. And because we have some acid in here, in the wet ingredients, it's going to have a chemical reaction with the baking soda and baking powder in the dry ingredients. Once you combine these, you want to make sure that you work pretty quickly to get everything mixed up and then into the piping bag and into the oven. So you don't want to like pre-mix it and let it sit there. Now you're going to stir it up, and you don't want to over mix it because you want to have it still be light and fluffy once it bakes up, and if you over mix it, it'll be denser and just kind of a tougher donut. You can kind of hear it making a little bit of like almost a bubbling sound, and you can see it being activated by the baking soda Okay, it looks like it's ready. Next, we're gonna put that into the piping bag. This is my way of holding on to the piping bag when I fill it. It looks like a mess right now, but it's going to be delicious. This is a piping bag with a very large tip. You can also just cut the corner of a plastic bag and use that if you don't have a piping bag. Right now I'm going to pull this out and make sure that I don't have any air bubbles in here. We're going to tie up the top and pipe it into the donut pan. So now we're ready to pipe the batter into our donut pan. I think I'm gonna start right here. The challenge here is to kind of even out how much you fill these, and I'll show you a little trick at the end because it's really hard to portion out to know exactly how much to put in each one. You wanna, of course, use all of the batter when you're done. So just squeeze that all out as evenly as possible. And I try not to have too many like dimples and cracks and, you know, unevenness as I'm squeezing it out because that will show up when you bake it. So as smooth of a motion as possible. I think we're good there. Now I'll show you the trick to kind of smooth these out. I used to try to smooth these out with my bare fingers, but then it would stick. So you want to dab a little bit of water to smooth it out a bit, and you have to work fast because you don't want these to sit too long. And really, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? But we don't want it to look too bad. Now it's ready to go in the oven. It's 375 degrees for 13 minutes. They're nice and fluffy, and they smell delicious. What you need to do now is just let them cool off in the pan for about 5 minutes, and then we're going to invert them onto the wire rack. Try not to eat them in the meantime. These have cooled. I didn't eat any. Now we're going to invert it. You want to take the rack and put it on top and hold both together and flip it in a very fast move. Boom. And now hopefully they will all pop out. If they don't, you just need to tap on them a little, fly onto the floor. Finally, now you're going to let these cool off even more. They are just so moist looking, and you can tell that they're kind of like a little bit spongy, like a cake donut. So these were not fried, obviously. Baked donuts, great for so many reasons. So now we're going to make the glaze. This is Yuzu flavored glaze. We have 2 cups of powdered sugar here, and then this is a 1/4 cup of the Mori-Nu Yuzu flavored Silken tofu. We're going to mash this up first. So I just mash it with like a spoonchula, what I call spoonchula, this thing. So this adds obviously some color. We'll add some color to your icing. And it also adds that citrusy yuzu flavor. If you've never seen yuzu before, it looks a lot like an orange or a small grapefruit, but it has like a bumpy texture on it. I know that doesn't sound very appealing, but it's actually a really great fruit, and the flavor is amazing. All right, so I think that's mashed enough. That in there. As always, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. I love vanilla extract. It just gives so much flavor. We're going to mash this up, and you want to get it into more of a thick glaze consistency. At first it looked like a lot of powdered sugar, right? But you can see that's turning into a glaze. Now if you had used pre-blended tofu, it would be easier and you wouldn't have to put so much, handwork into it. I actually prefer using the blender. Now this should be plenty of glaze for all 6 donuts. When I've had leftover glaze before, kind of sneak a little bit on my toast. I'm not gonna throw it away. You want to do this till all the lumps are gone. Or you can put it in a blender, or start off in a blender. Looks like we're done. We have a nice thick yummy glaze here, and we're going to put this on our donuts. So now our donuts have cooled, our glaze is made, and we have colorful sprinkles here, which of course are optional, but they make it so much more festive. Next, spoon the glaze onto each donut. Now, if you want to, some people just pick up the donut and dunk it in and then pick it up and then the glaze just drips wherever it drips. I actually prefer to spoon it on so I get a more even look. I just kind of, you know, spoon it on and let it drip. And if you don't have the patience, like I said, you can just dunk these right into the glaze. So I like to have it kind of fall over the edges, inside, a little bit on the outside, and have that beautiful glazed look. Now, if your glaze is a little too thick, you can always just add more tofu to thin it out. Now, I am glazing the side that actually was in the pan. So remember, we inverted this and we flipped it over. So these are nice and smooth. It's a nice and smooth surface on these donuts. But the other side is the bumpier side. You can glaze the bumpier side if you want. If you want to hide all those bumps and nooks and crannies on the other side. I prefer to glaze the smooth side because then the glaze looks nice and smooth. All right, we're ready to put the sprinkles on. As you can see here, we have a different batch of donuts. We had to take a break. These have a little bit less icing than last time, which means they won't be as sweet as that last batch that had a lot more glaze. So it's a matter of preference, really. So we're going to take a donut and dip it right into the sprinkles. I have a bowl of multicolored sprinkles here. If you just want regular glazed donuts, Yuzu flavored glazed donuts, you don't have to do this step. There you go. Beautiful. And you want to do this when the glaze is still a little bit wet because the sprinkles will stick to the glaze better. Now, if your glaze is really wet, you can just do these one by one, spooning the glaze on and immediately just sprinkling it on top by hand if you'd like. Then it will stick if the glaze is really wet. These are also really good with orange zest on top instead of sprinkles. So just get some fresh oranges and zest the peel and sprinkle that on top of the glaze. And there you have it, the last one. So pretty simple, really delicious. And these are great for sharing with friends, taking to a party, or just making them for yourself. Now let's see how they taste. Which one? I think I'll go for this one. Beautiful. Super moist on the inside, chocolatey, with that sweet glaze on top, and a little bit of crunch from the sprinkles. Love it. I'm Sophie Snow. Thank you for watching. Hope you try these at home. Let me know if you do, comment below, and if you have questions, I will respond. Shh, to you. Let me see if I can do it without cut. So cut, okay, cut flavor and that nice fragrant. Ooh.